In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. Talk about, speaking of radio, a controversial radio host at KDKA Radio in Pittsburgh. She's sitting her ass at home right now. She's been taken off the air indefinitely. The decision to take Wendy Bell off the air comes after a clip of her advocating for park rangers to shoot protesters went viral.
My easy solution for the park rangers and hopefully snipers who are going to be watching for this is to shoot on sight. Shoot, done. No more messing with monuments. You want to mess with a monument? Done. Get out.
Well, Wendy now is on indefinite suspension. Joining us right now is Lenny McAllister. Lenny's a conservative, director of Western Pennsylvania for Commonwealth Foundation. Lenny, this has gotten lots of attention there in Pittsburgh. Now, first of all, has she been fired or is she suspended indefinitely without pay? What's the status?
As of right now, definitely suspended. They were supposed to have a protest in the KDKA studios today, but only about 15 people showed up, so that didn't go as well as her supporters would have hoped that it did go. So as of right now, from what I'm hearing, is she'll be off the air for the rest of the week. So in essence, she got Friday off. She was going to probably have Labor Day off anyway. She's probably going to be off the rest of this week, and a determination will be made after that.
The thing that jumps out again, this whole notion of, wait a minute, so conservatives like her, they love the Second Amendment, but they don't like the First Amendment.
Or due process or anything else that comes with those Bill of Rights. And the shocking thing about that, Roland, is I did my shows at KDKA from that same microphone when I was a host on KDKA not that long ago. And I know what it was like to be a conservative on a station that, by and large, leans a little bit to the left, depending on the host. So people are trying to make this out to be conservative versus liberal. But the truth of the matter is, if you're a constitutional conservative, you believe in due process, innocent until proven guilty. Let the criminal justice system deal with any type of law breaking. Unfortunately, fascism is fascism. And what she's asking for is basically justice on sight, which is the epitome of what people were talking about with police and other type of renegade forces, judge, jury, and executioner, that we've been seeing in the streets for quite some time. It plays right into that narrative. And unfortunately, people have played right past that, and they're trying to make this about whether they're taking off a Trump supporter off the air when it has nothing to do with that.
Well, and again, I mean, she's saying shoot them on sight. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is a woman advocating for state-sanctioned violence against Americans.
Without due process, which is a constitutional right for every single American citizen, regardless of how guilty or how much in the act you are caught. Again, let's not talk about all the different assailants that have been caught after committing violent crimes. Here in Pennsylvania, Eric Frein had killed 2 police officers, 2 state troopers, and was brought in, unmarked. He's in a jail cell right now, went through the criminal justice system, was found guilty. We have plenty of cases like that. But then when you have this as an advocacy, something that's being said, and again, she said stuff similar to this in some instances on her personal Facebook page. But to say this in the KDKA studio, which is supposed to be the quote unquote voice of Pittsburgh, a radio station that's the oldest in North America, and to advocate for this type of violence, it's un-American and it's uncalled for, and I'm glad she's off the air.
You have folks who despise protesters. We've heard this sort of language before. And again, you have this. It amazes me when I hear conservatives, especially those on Fox News and conservative radio talk show hosts, love talking about, the victimization of black people. These are some of the biggest people who swear they're victims. I'm being attacked because I'm conservative or I'm Republican or I support Trump. No. You literally looked into the camera and said, take them out. Shoot protesters.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
That's on her. That's on her.
Yeah. And as you well know, Roland, there's a lot of conservatives that hate the victimization of black America, and they'll say that black people feel like they're too victimized, et cetera, et cetera. But the very first card they play in a debate is, I'm being victimized because I'm a conservative. This is part of the card that's being played right now with some of her supporters online. And it's just egregious, and it's you have a responsibility. We all know this on the air. We have a responsibility to speak a certain way. You can be provocative. You can push the envelope. You can say things that other people may not say in order to get them to think. But you cannot advocate for violence. And if you're a constitutional conservative, you are never supposed to be able to talk outside the realms of the Constitution, because that's when you start getting into the extra American things. That's when you start talking about socialism, communism, or fascism. And it's amazing how in these modern times, even with somebody like Wendy Bell, my fascism is fine, your fascism is un-American. Because that's basically what she's saying, and a lot of what her supporters are saying right now. And I say none of the fascism is right. Either we have a constitution or we don't. And that's exactly why people are protesting in the streets today.
She should be off the air. Let's see if they actually take her off it completely. We'll see. All right, Lady McAllister, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. God bless.
Appreciate it. Kelly, should she come back on the air?
No. What she did was unconstitutional, period. This isn't about, like you said, this is not about political party lines. This is about you literally violating your own protection, being the First Amendment. Basically, you can say almost whatever you want under First Amendment protections, but for inciting violence, and that's exactly what she did. And considering her base and her audience, I don't know what the numbers are in terms of ratings and how wide her audience is, but the fact that she said that at all, I don't care if it's to one person, you violated the First Amendment constitutional protection for free speech by doing so. So no, she should not be back on the air. What she did was jeopardize the integrity of the First Amendment, and other radio hosts who do programming such as shock value, like I'm thinking, like Howard Stern and even Rush Limbaugh, things like that. I haven't heard Rush Limbaugh say anything like that either. And he's something in the conservative party. So the fact that she said something so outrageous.
Rush says some ignorant stuff.
Huh? He has, but I personally do not recall him saying outright, blatantly say, shoot some protesters. Now, if he has, I stand corrected.
He said other stuff, but Mustafa, stay and go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can say what you want, don't incite violence.
Right, Mustafa. Right, Mustafa, stay or go.
She has to go. But the question is, why did KDKA actually hire her when she had been fired before by WTAE? They saw the things that she said, and they decided to fire her. So no one did their due diligence before they hired her for KDKA.
All right. Millet, stay or go?
Yeah, she has to go. And I think, and that's something that Lenny was actually talking about, there's a responsibility that it's different between, I don't advocate it regardless. I'm always pushing back on people, even online, who advocate for violence or praise or getting happy because someone died or is ill or something like that. But when you have a platform, you have a responsibility. And that's why I'm careful not to advocate for any type of violence. What she did was advocate for violence. I'm sure her defense is that I was just trying to be provocative. Well, you shouldn't have the space for that type of provocativism, because that is literally advocating for violence. So no, and from my perspective, she lost the public's trust, and she should not be in a forward-facing position like that again.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Seek.com, folks, a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They've got a couple of great products, folks. So this is their virtual reality headset. Allows for you to actually pop this open. You drop your cell phone right into here, close it up, and then you're able to watch VR content right here with this headset. So actually it's pretty cool. So just put it on, and then this is how it looks. And so what then happens, you can watch the content that's on Seek.com, and trust me, it's pretty cool when you sit here and you feel like you're actually in the room. And so you can also watch 360-degree video on YouTube or your own video as well. So with these headsets right here, then of course they have their 360-degree 4D headphones, which are great. They have this microphone you can attach to this for gamers who want to actually use this while they're also playing. That fell down there. Then you also have that's the headset. Then also their Bluetooth, listen to music. So I listen to it when I go walking. I love listening to it. Great bass. Again, a 360-degree travels across your head. If you want to order one or both of these, or even you want to subscribe to Seek.com, go to CEEK.com. Use the promo code right here, RMVIP2020. RMVIP 2020 to get these products. Certainly make for great gifts. And so we certainly appreciate them being a partner here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, where we also support black entrepreneurs who are also doing some great things. And so to Mary Spiel and her team, thanks a bunch for that. All right, y'all. In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. We were talking again about this video the audio that dropped today. That has caused a lot of consternation, and so this is the conversation that Donald Trump had with Bob Woodward of the Washington Post. Listen to this.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older
exactly.
people, to plenty of young people.
So
what's going on
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes,
because I don't want to create a panic.
Okay, so you actually heard Donald Trump. Okay, so at the White House press briefing was delayed for a bit because they had to figure out what they were going to say. And if you want to know how absolutely nuts these people are, listen to Kayleigh McEnany, the press secretary, just lie to the American people.
How can the president bear no responsibility for the almost 200,000 lives lost when he downplayed the virus initially and he knew how contagious and deadly it was? I don't understand how that can...
The president never downplayed the virus. Once again, the president expressed calm. The president was serious about this when Democrats were pursuing their sham impeachment. He was expressing calm, and he was taking early action, and his actions are reflective of how seriously he took COVID.
The tact that he took, the language that he used?
No.
You said that he used hopeful language. Does he regret that, given where we are now?
No, this president embodied the American spirit that when we face a challenge, a crisis, a pandemic, we come together. We can be optimistic. We can be serious about it. We can take it seriously with our actions, which is exactly what this president does. It's why we lead the world in testing.
Did she just say Donald Trump did not downplay it? Okay, I'm going to go back to what Donald Trump said. Now, y'all, listen. There's audio. There's literally audio. Bob Woodward records his interviews. Kayleigh McEnany says Donald Trump did not downplay coronavirus. This is Trump downplaying it.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older
exactly.
people, to plenty of young people.
So
what's going on
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes,
because I don't want to create a panic.
I always wanted to play it down. I am still playing it down because I did not want to create a panic. My pals, A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee, Robert Patillo, Executive Director, Rainbow Push Coalition, Peachtree Street Project, Teresa Lundy, Principal Founder, TML Communications. Teresa, so dude was lying. He was lying. He knew he was serious. He's saying one thing privately, another thing publicly, and all of these idiots who were following him were saying, and all these states who were not implementing the right strategy because he was downplaying it. And then for Kayleigh McEnany to stand there and say, I wouldn't lie to you, and then actually lie, that's just beyond stupid.
It's beyond it, Eric. It's like I can't think of the words outside of disgusting and dangerous of the two words that I can think of what Donald Trump has done since this pandemic. Thousands of lives could have been changed if he did not downplay it, if he did not want to cause the panic, right? Because, again, we haven't had a pandemic in 102 years since the Spanish flu. So there obviously is a playbook of what could have been done, but I think the first and foremost thing that could have been done, especially with this type of president, is tell the and to ensure that his staff was also telling the truth and not trying to make sure they have his back. Kelly, I was impressed with her as a young woman, in her 30s as a press secretary, but she's been willing to really just lose herself in this entire process, right? There's one thing to be on the campaign, but then there's one to actually serve the White House and the American people, and she hasn't been doing that. But that goes for a whole stem of his team. So I'm not sure what's happening in those back rooms where, before they get to a press conference and before they are getting their daily briefings, it's how can we protect the president? But no one's protecting the American people, and that's why we have thousands of lives that are dying because of this misinformation.
These folks are absolute liars, Robert. And for Trump defenders to say, oh no, he was protecting the people, he was looking out for the people, didn't want there to be a panic. 200,000 people are now dead.
You're absolutely correct, Roland. And think about what when these first tapes took place. This was mid to early February. So this is before Donald Trump did his speech where he said the coverage of his response was a hoax. This was before Matt Gaetz sat on the floor of Congress with a gas mask on. This is before we went back and forth for 3 months over whether or not we should be taking hydroxychloroquine. This is before we were having a full-blown culture war with rifles and rocket launchers over wearing masks. Donald Trump knew in February and March that masks were effective and that it was airborne, and just chose to say downplay the need to wear masks and cause armed conflicts over wearing masks. Think about the thousands and thousands of people who could have had their lives saved, the thousands and thousands of people who would not be infected today if we had simply taken this seriously in February instead of finding out in September what was the truth. And also for Bob Woodruff, how do you sit on this information for 6 months? I understand you want to put it into a book, you want to compile the information, but this is vital national security and health information. How do you just sit on this for 6 months and only release it when it's time for your book to come out, instead of letting the American people know months ago information going to save tens of thousands of lives? So this is just an all-around failure of our broken system. And unfortunately, Trump has become trans veracity. He's past the point of anybody caring whether or not he is lying. People assume that he is lying and then continue on from there. This week, we're talking about, did he lie about coronavirus and have it on tape? Last week, it was whether or not he called military families losers and suckers. The week before that, it was whether or not he was trying to defund the post office. The week before that, he tweeted about trying to move the election. We're doing the monster of the week thing from Power Rangers in the 90s, fighting each individualized battle instead of taking a cohesive approach of just saying that this is a nation in chaos. This is what a failed state looks like. This is what late-stage capitalism, as Werner put it, looks like, and that we are having our systems broken apart at the seams. And unless we are willing to make corrective action, it may be too late to save what we have left.
A hoax. Yeah. This was one of the questions that was raised at the press briefing. Of course, Kayleigh could not answer this one. Y'all, listen to this.
Not lying. Why did he call it a hoax? Kayleigh, if he's not lying, why did he call it a hoax?
Of course, she wouldn't answer that one. Scott, he wouldn't answer that question. But it's legitimate. It's like he kept calling it a hoax, but she's saying, but he wasn't lying. Really?
It's like you ever painted a floor or a wall and painted yourself into a corner where you don't have a response or you can't get out without stepping on the paint. That's where Kayleigh was today in that press conference. She's defending or trying to defend the indefensible. She has a boss that lies with no conscience whatsoever. He has no conscience. He doesn't care. He knew he was being taped. He knew this book was coming out, and he still lied. And there are no repercussions. Robert and I were talking about this earlier. There are no repercussions, so he just keeps on lying about it. That's just really, really a very bad situation for our democracy. It really is. And the other thing you got to remember here is that his lies, it's worse than the taping, by the way. He was briefed in December by his intelligence people who said this was coming. He admitted that on tape. And he was asked about that. And that's when he went into how he played it down. But him playing it down cost lives. And so, but again, it doesn't matter to his GOP and that 40%. Democrats better come out in large numbers because this president is probably the most dangerous president who's ever been in the White House.
Bottom line is here. His supporters, Teresa, they don't give a damn. They don't care if he lies. They don't. They're just going to sit here and just vote for whatever. But the bottom line here is this here. I would hope there are people who are independents. I would hope there are pissed off Democrats who are going to turn out in large numbers, because if you think that what this man has done so far is crazy, give his ass 4 more years.
You know, I think people are actually waking up to what Donald Trump has been doing the last 5 years. And you know what? The way Robert literally just did the week by week scenario, that I feel like we're pretty much in a series with our president is, you know, I think people are really starting to understand why it's important to get to the polls. I don't even think we need to do any more media ad buys as it relates to getting to the polls. I think now it's just more about understanding just what needs to happen. So, I mean, you know, there has been countless conversations, countless meetings and conferences that have been just popping up where people are really getting engaged and saying, you know what, the last couple days, weeks of the election, they are trying to figure out what needs to be done. And so they're galvanizing, they're having conversations, setting up volunteer strategies. I know commissioner's office across Pennsylvania are actually paying people to be poll workers, right? That is the first time that's actually been done outside of the party. But now the state is actually stepping in and saying, listen, we need more bodies at the polls. And so I think there's a lot of young people stepping up. I think there has been a lot of change and movement. But again, Trump's administration has lost the message when Trump started, you know, when all these revelations started to come to light. So, there's a huge opportunity here.
Yeah, but Roland, if I may, real quick, we've got 3 opponents as Democrats, right? You've got the GOP / Donald Trump, you've got voter suppression, and you got Russian interference that Democrats are running against. He underpolls in every poll, as we know. How do the Democrats defeat that?
You got to turn folks out. Simple as that. That's what you got to do. I said this here. I tweeted this here, folks. Y'all be able to see my video. Let me know if you are. Okay. So I said, after the Bob Woodward thing came out, first thing I said is I wonder how fast the folks with the Lincoln Project are going to be able to get an ad out. That was like one of the first things that I said. And so I said, and I think the tapes came out around 11 or so. And I said, I think they'll have an ad out by 3 o'clock. Actually, they're out before 2 o'clock. So this is what they dropped that quick.
This is more deadly. This is 5 per, this is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%, so this is deadly stuff.
We show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless.
Not just older.
Yeah, exactly.
People, to plenty of young people.
Young people are almost immune to this disease.
It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus.
We lose thousands and thousands of people a year to the flu. We don't turn the country off.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
What this does, Robert, Trump wanted desperately for the conversation to be about law and order. No, he did not want it to be about coronavirus. This brings it back to his Achilles heel.
Yeah, of course this is Achilles heel, and I think the strategy that we've seen the White House roll out today, I was saying it was just about trying to prevent a panic. I think that might be one of the dumbest talking points I've heard, and you can tell that this caught them completely off guard. The idea of this president not wanting to incite panic when the entire Republican convention was a return to the American Horror Story, MS-13 will be sent to the suburbs to destroy your communities and rape your wife. That is inciting panic. This idea of putting the McCloskeys on television who tried to kill protesters, tweeting about Killer Kyle and Kenosha. That is inciting violence. That is inciting discord. So this idea of wanting to keep a calm in the American people, this is almost like telling your wife that you only lied to her because you knew it would make her angry. That is the equivalent of what the White House is rolling out as their defense, that the president didn't want you to panic. That's why he lied to you about how deadly a virus was that's killed tens of thousands of, at this point, hundreds of thousands of Americans. We are 20% of the death toll of the entire earth. And we are not 20% of the world population. So this idea that he rolled out in his press conference today saying, well, we did a great job because millions would have died without what we did, and I only lied to you to keep you calm, I think that is a point that Democrats have to hop on. Not just the Lincoln Project, not just Republican groups, not just the media. The Democratic Party has to have a way to articulate a message and turn it around quickly and use that to motivate voters. If you can link the fact that we've been in quarantine for 6 months to the fact that the president lied to us the first month when he could have gotten a hold
and that
of this,
people died.
That is how you get people motivated. But simply turning this into just the latest in a week by week scandal is how you lose the messaging war. Think about the fact that President Trump got impeached earlier this year. We don't even talk about that in the election season. He is that able to change the conversation. So if the Democrats don't hop on this like a starving dog on a bone, then you're going to end up losing this week of messaging.
The folks with the Midas touch also dropped their ad. Watch this.
Trump pretended the coronavirus wouldn't come to our shores.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
The risk to the American people remains very low.
He pretended the Democrats were overreacting.
And this is their new hope.
He pretended it would go away.
A lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat.
And then he pretended again.
It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus.
View this the same as the flu.
And again.
At some point, that's going to sort of just disappear.
And again.
It's going away. No, it'll go away.
While Trump pretended, Americans face real consequences. Nearly 200,000 dead and rising. Businesses closed. And now, as over 1,000 Americans die each day, what's the Trump administration's plan? Pretend that the pandemic is over. In a time of crisis, Americans can't afford to have a pretend president.
I wanted to always play it down.
Midas Touch is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I think you're going to see the hammer constantly, Teresa. And the other piece is here. Joe Biden is already out. He was speaking in Michigan. He spoke out on this as well. I mean, this is the defining issue of this campaign, and it has a direct impact on turnout as well. And so I don't think you're going to see it reflected in polling for another 3 to 4 days. But again, the fact that if Democrats hammer this constantly, this is going to help them.
This is a phenomenal gift to the Democratic Party. I think, when Donald Trump began to show who he was from the beginning, if we remember from the beginning of his campaign days to how they were trying to get him to transform while he was president, it just didn't work. The real Donald Trump coming down the escalator of his building showed up in the beginning stages, right? And I think it's coming to the forefront where everybody is starting to honestly get their talking points together. But honestly, it's like, does this make sense to you, right? So it's not as much as a that the Democrats have to put out like, hey, he did this, he did this. You can literally have a workbook, unfortunate, about why Donald Trump lies to the American people, and the Republicans continuously have his back. It's getting so bad that the Republicans are literally on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, and they really can't explain some of the things that he does. So if you see most of them, they actually stop having the interviews unless it's talking about their bill, because it's hard to defend someone where you really just don't understand it or keeping you out the loop. Donald Trump has proven to him, his team, and the American people that he doesn't care about lying, doesn't care about the lives that were lost, he doesn't care about the families, the testimonials, the police brutality. He went to Wisconsin and gave, some mayors $1 million for their police department, but said nothing to Jacob Blake's family. I mean, if we don't have a president that is for us, and I think Democrats need to make that very clear on election day, but more so in their everyday conversations.
Yep.
We absolutely should be having these dialogues about what the next president of the United States looks like. And if we're not only talking about Joe Biden, we absolutely have to talk about Senator Kamala Harris.
And folks, back to our Road Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. Well, let's talk about what's happening in the state of Missouri. Kim Gardner has been under vicious attack since she became the circuit attorney in St. Louis. Vicious attacks. They tried to undercut her from day one. When her unit discovered that there's a African American who likely did not commit a crime, they sued her saying, "Oh, you don't even have jurisdiction to bring this to court." Just constant barrage. So they recently had a primary. She wins, crushes her opposition. But then guess what happens? They then turn around in the legislature and try to strip her of her powers. State Senator Bob Onder believes that Governor Mike Parsons should have the right to remove Gardner from office if he wants to and replace her with the prosecutor of his choice. Onder proposed a bill that gets rid of the residency requirement for St. Louis police officers and lowers the age for adult certification for armed criminal action to 14 years old, as if Gardner cannot execute her job. Well, Governor Parsons said he plans to unleash Republican Attorney General Eric Schmitt on criminal cases in the city. He gives Schmitt permission to prosecute cases if 90 or more days have passed. Now, of course, Gardner is the first black person elected as city prosecutor. She joins us right now. I mean, this is you campaign 60% or more of the vote, you win the primary. You're going to win the general election. Now they're trying to use their power in the legislature to now strip you of the power. You are a duly elected prosecutor from the citizens of St. Louis, and these largely white Republicans are saying, damn that, we are not going to let her do her job.
Well, thank you, Roland. Thank you for having me. And that's correct. It's the people overwhelmingly elected me in August 4th to be the elected prosecuting attorney in our jurisdiction. And the Republican Party has decided, led by President Donald Trump, Senator Josh Hawley, Attorney General Eric Schmidt, as well as Governor Mike Parsons, that they were going to use this opportunity to take the elected prosecutor and usurp the will of the people by voter suppression to feed into this line of attacks that you see with African-American female prosecutors around the country, that now they're saying we don't want them to be elected, so now we're going to take their prosecutorial discretion, which prosecutors have had for over 140 plus years in my position. And why is it different? And this legislation is dangerous. This legislation is targeting me only. We have 114 other prosecuting attorney offices around the state of Missouri, and I'm the only one that this bill targets. It unfairly gives the investigative agency, the police department, the ability to usurp my power, the elected prosecutor, to call in the attorney general. That's never been done. They're using this as a violent crime initiative that they're pushing. That's a false narrative that, most violent crime in our city is unsolved because lack of witness and victim participation. They also fail to realize that a murder case cannot be investigated within 90 days. Most murder cases are unsolved for many years. There's no statute of limitations on murder. So they give a 90-day window, which is unrealistic. And they're using this same narrative that you see across this country where they're injecting themselves to say that we are the cause of violent crime. And that's simply not true. And that's the problem.
So, so you're saying out of the 114 prosecutors in the entire state, nobody else is being targeted but you. How many other prosecutors in Missouri are black?
To the best of my knowledge, it's me and Mr. Wesley Bell in the St. Louis County. I'm in St. Louis City.
So you're in St. Louis City. Wesley Bell is in St. Louis County. And so you're the only two blacks in the entire state, but they're targeting you.
Yes. And this bill by the sponsor, like you said, Senator Onder, specifically said this bill was about Kim Gardner. And that's where the attacks on African-American reform-minded female prosecutors is different, even for our male counterparts. This bill is said to be the Kim Gardner bill, and that's how it's being pushed. The legislative intent is for Kim Gardner. And as we know, this is also from the attacks of President Trump, who decided to use this, as well as the governor. They're using this around the country to attack reform-minded prosecutors. Even William Barr said this is because we're causing lawlessness. And that's the farce, a lie that they're perpetuating because they have no other platform but to run off of fear and misinformation. And that's been led and championed by Missouri Governor, Attorney General Eric Schmidt, as well as, and both of them are unelected, by the way, and also have a November election like me. I'm also running in the general election, November 3rd. And so they're unelected. So this is their platform to say that they're going to take care of the violent crime in the city of St. Louis by silencing the will of the people. But it's interesting. They never address the reasons, the root causes of what drives individuals in the criminal justice system. When I was a former legislator, and I was there when now Governor Parsons was a senator, as well as now Attorney General Eric Schmidt was a senator, and they took the vote to gut our gun law, to enact stand your ground, and basically did away with putting restrictions on access to guns. And also in this legislation, they also lowered the age to actually give a gun to young kids under the age of 14 in this legislation. But they want to talk about cell phone crime. They actually get access to social services that also help drive or to eradicate people going to the criminal justice system. And they actually defunded more than any other governor education in our state. So they have created the perfect form of hopelessness in terms of their bad policies, but they want to blame it on the first African-American female reform-minded prosecutor in the city of St. Louis. And that's a problem.
And again, this is what happens. These are Republicans. These are white Republicans in Missouri they're trying to keep a duly elected black prosecutor, black people from doing her job. It is the same crap that white governor Republican Larry Hogan in Maryland did to Marilyn Mosby. All of a sudden telling the Democratic Attorney General, take over these cases, as if she can't do her job.
And I agree. And that's where these attacks that you look at African-American reform out of prosecutors, like you said, Maryland, look at Kim Foxx, look at Aramis Ayala in Florida, how they took over, the attorney general, the governor, took over her cases because of her stance on issues with the death penalty. And there's many other examples of how this is the trend. And that's why we have to say enough is enough, because when you take away the discretion of a local elected prosecutor that people elected you're accountable to the people, and you're elected every 4 years. And so when you are silencing the will of the people, that shows me that you don't care about the people of the city of St. Louis, because I wasn't just voted back in. I was overwhelmingly voted as a testament to the people saying we want reform. We want this vision of moving this community forward. And we want this prosecutor to do that work. And why is the Republican Party so eager to silence the will of the people in the city of St. Louis? That's a problem. Voter suppression all day.
Kim Gardner, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Roland.
Thank you very much. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Mellet, what the hell's up with your party?
I'm not sure. Actually, I thought you were going to ask her why did she think that the other black attorney general, why wasn't he?
No, he's not. He's not. First of all, so let me help you out.
I'm sorry, not attorney general.
No, right. So let me help you out. First of all, Kim Gardner was elected in the city of St. Louis. Wesley Bell is elected in the county of St. Louis. When Wesley Bell when he beat Bob McCullough, all of those white assistant district attorneys who had never before joined a union, all en masse chose to join the police union when he all of a sudden becomes the DA. And so there have been efforts there by white folks in Missouri to actually impact both Kim Gardner as well as Wesley Bell. The difference here is if you look at the history here, and we've had Kim on this show multiple times, in the case where her unit said that this black man did not commit this crime and should be freed, they are still blocking that black man from being released from prison. They do not even want the evidence to be presented. They took her to court saying she didn't have the jurisdiction to fight. They tried to come at her even with basic stuff in the city. She had to sue. She won about her jurisdiction as well. This is a hatred of Kim Gardner because she refuses to bow down to white power in St. Louis. And the reality is, St. Louis is the biggest city in the state, and therefore they want to keep control.
Yeah, so that really didn't answer why is it that because if we're going to make this a race thing, then you have to ask, why didn't they go after the black prosecutor?
Because she's actually been elected longer. And again, if you actually do the research on the story, I told you, there are other issues. It goes beyond just this one thing. They have come after her because she's the city prosecutor, meaning over the city of St. Louis. He's county. So he only impacts the places outside of St. Louis, the counties that surround. He's St. Louis County. And so she's the DA of the largest city in the state. That's why.
Okay, well, I was trying to really dig into the racial component. I have a problem
because she controls it. She's the DA.
Okay, well, again, that really doesn't clarify to me why they didn't go after. If we're going to make this a race issue, then we have to talk about other instances.
Because she also went after the Republican governor who was taking pictures of the woman he was cheating with, and they didn't like the fact that she did that as well.
Maybe not, but that sounds like a problem with Kim Gardner as opposed to Kim Gardner being black. Again, that's what I was trying to focus on.
All right.
Well, I mean, we're rolling. You interrupted me the entire time, so I really didn't have much to say about it.
It's like,
but my point is that
that's not good enough. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, it's not a matter if it's not being good enough. I was asking you, and you didn't, and apparently you didn't have an answer, and you didn't think to answer her.
Go ahead.
But you didn't think to answer to ask her that question is that if it's an issue of race.
Actually, because again, I guess you missed the part. Hold on, one second. Hold on. Let me say it again. No, excuse me.
I can't say anything if you're just going to continue to cut me
When
off.
you say, "Oh, you didn't ask her," you missed the part when I said we have had.
How many black people there?
I've said we have had Kim Gardner on this show multiple times in the last 2 years because of how Republicans in Missouri have been targeting her since she has been St. Louis Circuit Attorney. Now go ahead.
Well, that very well could be because, as you said, and as we've talked about this on the show before, this notion of going after these reform-minded prosecutors. But that's not the same as going after her, per her suggestion, because she's black and because she's a woman. Maybe that could be the case, but I imagine that it's probably because of whatever efforts that she's taking, the governor and whoever else, they don't like those type of reforms that she's doing. But that's not isolated to a race issue. So that's what I was trying to get at. If we're going to make this a race issue, then let's understand what it is that we're talking about. I agree with you. Very well, they could not like her reform-minded perspective on prosecutors. That's valid for her to have a problem with, and it's not something that I don't think that government should be doing at all. But again, that's separate from the race issue.
Kelly, they going after this black woman. White Republicans in Missouri going after this black woman. Go ahead.
Yes, they are. I understand Malik's point regarding, there are other things that could be the case. But if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And right now, it's instead of it being a duck, it's racism. And that has been clear throughout the entire tenure of her career in this capacity. And these predominantly white men, also Republican, attacking her for, a multitude of reasons. I am actually more concerned about the fact, let's just say, for Malik's sake, that it's not about her being a black woman. It's still highly unconstitutional, according to what I've read, and according to what she just said is happening to her in this jurisdiction. Because what's happening right now, if everything is correct that we're listening to right now, what's happening right now is the Missouri legislature has come up with a bill of attainder, which is literally legislation that is targeting a specific person or group of people. Now, if this legislation is true and it's only affecting her, and they're literally calling it the Kim Gardner bill, by default is unconstitutional and it shouldn't be in place at all, and it shouldn't be able to be pursued or enacted, because just by us, being governed under the Constitution, it is unconstitutional, race aside. So whether she's black, it's because she's a black woman, or whether it's because they literally are calling this her name bill, either way, it's wrong. But no, I definitely agree with you that it's predominantly because she is a black woman. But again, just in case it's not, they're still in the wrong by targeting her in this legislation.
It's amazing. It's amazing, Mustafa. You just don't quite have this happening with white prosecutors. But all of a sudden, it's strip her of her power, say she couldn't pursue a case with trying to free a man from prison. I mean, we can go on and on and on. I mean, again, if you Google, her efforts, Kim Gardner and Missouri Republicans, I mean, it has been a constant barrage. They are, in essence, harassing her to keep her from doing her job.
Exactly. So if there's 114 folks in Missouri who hold the same position she does, but yet she's the only one that's being singled out, then there must be, a racial component to it. Now, maybe that's not enough. So for Malik and others, let's use some logic here. So we know that St. Louis is primarily, or has a very large African-American population. Those folks chose her to be in the position that she's in. So that must mean that the Missouri legislators felt that these folks are not educated enough to utilize their vote to choose someone to best represent them. So I'm not sure how anyone could not see that there is a racialized component to this, considering you are now telling a black city that your choices don't have value and that we are going to use our privilege and power to make decisions for you.
The Republicans cannot explain. They can't explain what they're doing. They can't. They can't. They just simply can't. I mean, it's been one after another. I mean, she has sued. She has had to sue and get a judgment saying, no, she does have the power to run her office the way she sees fit. Then when she tried to create this integrity unit that goes back and looks at cases to ensure folks are found guilty, she finds overwhelming evidence that the brother didn't commit a crime. They tell her, no, he's staying in prison. You don't even have jurisdiction with this. It's just this constant. They poured massive amounts of money into super PACs trying to get her to lose. She wins 60% of the vote. Still not good enough for them. And here's the piece here. St. Louis is not majority black city. What you're dealing with there is that really African Americans make up 45% of the city, whites make up 44%. What you're dealing with is this is the power struggle. This is the same thing we talked about was happening in Portsmouth, Virginia. This is the same thing that's happening in other cities across the country where African Americans are flexing their political muscle, and then there are those who say, we want you just to stay in your place. That's what is going on. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Seek.com, folks, a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They got a couple of great products, folks. So this is their virtual reality headset. Allows for you to actually pop this open. You drop your cell phone right into here, close it up, and then you're able to watch VR content right here with this headset. So actually it's pretty cool. So just put it on, and then this is how it looks. And so what then happens, you can watch the content that's on Seek.com, and trust me, it's pretty cool when you sit here and you feel like you're actually in the room. And so you can also watch 360-degree video on YouTube or your own video as well. So with these headsets right here, then of course they have their 360-degree 4D headphones, which are great. They have this microphone you can attach to this for gamers who want to actually use this while they're also playing. That fell down there. Then you also have that's the headset. Then also their Bluetooth, listen to music. So I listen to it when I go walking. I love listening to it. Great bass. Again, a 360-degree travels across your head. If you want to order one or both of these, or even you want to subscribe to Seek.com, go to CEEK.com. Use the promo code right here, RMVIP2020. RMVIP2020 to get these products. Certainly make for great gifts. And so we certainly appreciate them being a partner here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, where we also support black entrepreneurs who are also doing some great things. And so to Mary Spiel and her team, thanks a bunch for that. All right, y'all. In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. Donald Trump continues his focus on white people. Yes, targeting white voters. It's real clear what he is doing. He has now banned diversity training, labeling it divisive anti-American propaganda. It came to Trump's attention that millions of dollars of taxpayers' money has been funding the trainings. Well, in the two-page memorandum from the Office of Management and Budget, Director Russell Vaught, the president demands that federal agencies stop using taxpayer dollars to fund these various trainings. The document stated that the sessions engender division and resentment within the federal workforce. Let's not forget that previously Trump said he does not believe the U.S. has a systemic racism problem. Here we go. Let's talk about with our panel, Malik Abdul, a Republican strategist, Kelly Bethea, communication strategist, Mustafa Santiago Ali, PhD, former senior advisor for the Environmental Justice EPA. Mustafa, I'll start with you. You've worked in the federal government. What do you make of this? I mean, this is just the latest Donald Trump. Hey, how can I appeal to white voters so I can win in November?
He's just continuing to try to fan the flames of division, create chaos wherever he can. It's actually, it would be laughable if there wasn't so much seriousness attached to the things that he does. I used to actually be, a national trainer when I was in the federal government, probably about the middle part of my career. And it was amazing to see folks who many times had never really interacted with each other coming together and being in a space where they could begin to unpack stuff and begin to dismantle, some of the antiquated thoughts that some of them had. And if you don't have these opportunities for people to, begin to really unpack many of the challenges that have been built into our system, then you're doing a disservice. And he knows what he's doing. And the interesting thing is he doesn't also realize that he's hurting a lot of small businesses as well, because many of them are the contractors that actually conduct the trainings. Of course, many of those are contractors of color, but some are not. So not only is he, hurting the federal government and the journey that it's been going on to try and get it right, but he's also hurting small businesses.
So, Kelly, what do you make of this again? This targeting of diversity training, calling it anti-American propaganda?
It's typical Trump. That's what I think of it on its face. But what's more insidious than that is the notion that we are in a society that these kind of trainings are not necessary or that they're not needed. That couldn't be further from the truth. As we are becoming a more diverse nation, we still have these antiquated thoughts, like Mustafa had alluded to, regarding race and regarding our interactions with other races. And it is critical at this time to have training such as this so that we don't repeat history. And just, to give people just a little bit of perspective with this, even as diverse as we see society today, especially like, for example, with Congress, we have applauded Congress being the most diverse Congress ever. But that only means, it only means that only, I want to say 53 members of Congress are people of color or Black specifically, but there are 535 members of Congress. So that's a problem. Because that's not reflective of what our nation is. It's not that we only, like in perspective, we have a lot more people of color in this country than what is reflected in our Congress. And what is reflected in our Congress is something that is antiquated. We need to change that. And we need to change it in the federal government as well. And the fact that Trump does not want to do that, the fact that Trump is adamant about stopping that, that's a problem.
This is the memo right here. Go to my iPad, please. This is the memo. And this is what's interesting here. They write, it has come to the president's attention that executive branch agencies have spent millions of taxpayer dollars to date, quote, training government workers to believe divisive anti-American propaganda. For example, according to press reports, employees across the executive branch have been required to attend trainings where they are told that, quote, virtually all white people contribute to racism, unquote, or where they are required to say that they, quote, benefit from racism, unquote. According to press reports, in some cases, these trainings have further claimed that there is racism embedded in the belief that America is the land of opportunity or the belief that the most qualified person should receive a job. I'm confused here. This is a memo from the director of the Office of Management and Budget. He's citing in the second paragraph press reports. Don't you think the director of the Office of Management and Budget should actually get the details himself before you do this? You literally are saying, oh, we read this in the paper or on television, so therefore we're not going to ban the trainings, as opposed to actually finding out what the trainings actually were. This is laziness. Hold on one second, having some audio issues. Guys, let's get the mic straight. Okay, you need to unmute yourself. Now try again. Okay, all right, keep going. You're very low, so guys, you're very low. No, guys, I'm hearing him, but he's very low. Okay, y'all sort that out, and I'm gonna come back to you. That's what's crazy, Mustafa. Like, literally, they're citing press reports. They haven't even checked themselves.
Right. I mean, it's real simple. As you said, it is extremely lazy because all they have to do, all of the courses that run through the training that happens on the federal level, actually, there's not only a write-up about it, but there are evaluations that in many of them happen both before and after, so that those who are going through the training will share if they find value in it. And if a training doesn't hit a certain number, then of course it's not going to be utilized moving forward. But when you have an administration filled with individuals who have no idea about what they're doing or how to actually utilize federal dollars in a proper way, and refuse to engage with folks, especially career employees who would say, here's the process, here's the information, now make an informed decision.
So Mel, again, could they have checked themselves?
Yeah, I have a huge problem with how they decided to roll this out, especially with the memo that's referencing essentially press reports. I don't think that you should issue out any type of government memo that is based on press reports. So I do definitely disagree with that. On the notion of diversity training, I think it's important for us to actually make a distinction as to what they're saying here. They're talking about specific instances where they're talking about like white privilege and critical race theory. And critical race theory, which is ironically something that I studied while I was in college. I think that those things need to be left at a collegiate level. I don't think that the federal government needs to be in the business of doing training where we're talking about white privilege and critical race theory.
Why?
Because in that instance, well, because there's a whole science, social science, whether you're talking about post-structuralism, Marxism, any of those things are dealing. You can actually relate to critical race theory. I don't think that it's a problem. And as I just checked earlier, even before coming on the show, the federal government has an Office of Diversity and Inclusion. They're going to continue their program. And if you look at the AD organizations that have actually assisted the federal government in the training, those things will not be affected. So whether you're talking about things like race and gender, sexual orientation, a lot of religion, a lot of those things as far as the federal government apparatus, they are still going on. But whatever this anonymous thing that we still don't know enough about that apparently is referencing things like critical race theory or white privilege, no, I don't think that the federal government's job is to do that. I think that is definitely something left up to either organizations or colleges and universities.
I don't think that those theories and those pieces of curriculum are taught separately. They're typically integrated into whatever training is made available in the federal government. My understanding of this memo is that he wants those components of the trainings, even within the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, the office that is responsible for, administering these trainings. He wants those components in those trainings out. And that is what, correct me if I'm wrong, Roland, but that was my understanding of the memo. And if that's the case, then that's not right, because even in federal government, that is a social science aspect. We're talking about political science. They are in politics. This is a political atmosphere.
Yeah, you're definitely correct on the notion that he wants that component, and I'm glad you actually pointed that out. He wants a component of the federal government's diversity training removed. That's a component, not the diversity training program that the federal government will continue to offer. So I think it is, sure, we can discuss whether or not whether the federal government should be in the business of teaching things like white privilege and stuff like that. But personally, as someone who's taking these courses, who has a background in this and understanding how that and feminism and a lot of other things work, I don't think that the federal government should be in the business of that type of instruction.
But I believe they do, because that kind of instruction is necessary to understand what's going on with the public. I like, just for a perfect example, DOJ, a lot of the cases that can come down regarding discrimination, abuse, fraud, anything can stem from the ailments that are explained in critical race theory and feminism and the like. I mean, right now we're only talking about critical race theory and systemic racism, but it's not disputed that there is systemic racism in the government.
No. But see, that's the problem, Kelly. We know that. They are living in denial. They don't want any discussion. They don't want any of that. And again, the fundamental problem here is this is what happens when you have somebody who is in the White House who watches television all day. Donald Trump literally leads the nation based upon what he learns on Fox News and on One America News Network. That's it. That and Newsmax. That's what he watches. And so the fact that they are saying we're ending this based upon press reports, they saw it on television. That's the problem. And so these are not bright people. These are not these are not the brightest bulb in a dark room. OK, and so that's what you're dealing with here. You're dealing with weak people who make decisions like this. And it's just nonsense. And it's ridiculous. But again, this is the guy who says, oh, no, I just have too much work to watch television. No, you don't, because this is how you lead. But here's the other piece. It plays into, Mustafa, it plays into Donald Trump's targeting of white voters. Today, he tweeted again, oh, no, these Democrats, they're going to just have a wave of crime coming to the suburbs. Basically, he's yelling, I'm your only savior. White people, I'm the one. I'm the white guy who can save you. That's what all of this is all wrapped up into, Mustafa.
It's about trying to create black and brown fear for the country. You know, watch out for the black folks, watch out for the brown folks. They're going to take something away from you. They're going to damage something that you have. They're going to balance out the power structure, which, of course, this is what it really always goes back to. It's so ridiculous. They're so shameful. And they're so tired because they can't legislate, they can't create policy, so they try and tear everything down. We've watched it for the last 4 years. You haven't seen any other memos coming out about the other thousands of trainings that run through federal service that they could have focused on if they wanted to do an in-depth study of all the trainings that were out there and then said, well, here are the 10 that we feel no longer have value, and here's the reasoning behind it. Here's the science behind it. Of course, they didn't do that because they've never done their job since they walked in the door, except in trying to dismantle America and democracy.
Here it is, Billy. Sleepy Joe Biden has pledged to abolish suburban communities as they currently exist by reinstating Obama's radical AFFH regulation. There goes suburbia. What he's saying is, white people, I can save you, just me.
Well, from my perspective, it seems as if what he's focusing on is the same thing that Democrats and Republicans focus on. They focus on the suburbs. In 2018, there was a large discussion about how Donald Trump was going to fare in the suburbs. You can say, I guess those that would be white people, but that was white women, but that is something that Democrats were concerned about. That's something that Democrats are concerned about now, what happens in the suburbs. But contrary to how this is
hold on. So you keep saying, so you're saying the only message Democrats have is for the suburbs?
No, I'm not saying the only message that Democrats have. Democrats are running a message trying to get the voters that those suburban voters, as we are saying, that they're white women voters, but those same suburban voters that we've been talking about since 2016, these are the same voters that exist now.
No, it's not.
Talking about white women voters.
No, it's not.
Now,
it's not the same. It's not the same voters. It's not. The reality is, and again, you're now seeing other mainstream media outlets finally wake the hell up. Donald Trump is making overt appeals to whiteness.
Well, again, this is the same. So if I know that you're not going to get on here and argue that Democrats have not targeted suburban voters, I know that you're not going to get
actually what I'm going to target is what I'm going to argue is that Democrats actually have a multiracial coalition that in order for them to win, it requires that. Republicans. Well, yeah, but one second. Republicans have a white coalition. There's a difference. Republicans appeal largely to white people. Facts. That's not an opinion. Those are facts. And Donald Trump is trying to hyper appeal to just white voters.
Well, see, there is no truth or fiction in this because we both have opinions. You have an opinion on what Donald Trump is focusing.
No, I'm stating actual facts.
I'm having an opinion on what Donald Trump is focusing on myself. Now, the reality is that in the suburbs, there are plenty of black people who live in the suburbs. We've had this discussion on your show before.
Depending upon the state, hold up. First of all, when you say there are plenty of black people living, it depends on the particular state. But depending upon the state. But the reality is, he ain't talking about us.
But see, but again, that's your opinion, Roll, and I'm fine with you having that opinion. I have a different opinion, but I'm not going to sit and belittle your point because you feel as if he's talking about white people. The reality is that the Republican Party across the board, even before I decided to become a Republican, the Republican Party has been associated with white people in the same way that 90% of black people vote Democrat, and black people are associated with Democrats. It doesn't matter which election cycle it is. When you have 90% of people voting for one party, sure, you can say that, well, Democrats are only trying to target black people. Well, no, they're not. They actually have a much larger coalition, and I believe that the Republican Party has a much larger coalition than just white people. I'm not white. I know many people just like me who are not white, and we are supportive of the Republican Party, and some, not all, and some are actually supportive of Donald Trump.
Well, bottom line is this here. Look, his numbers are coming from white people. That's where they're coming from, and so we certainly shall see what happens. Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Seek.com, folks, a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They got a couple of great products, folks. So this is their virtual reality headset. Allows for you to actually pop this open. You drop your cell phone right into here, close it up, and then you're able to watch VR content right here with this headset. So actually it's pretty cool. So, just put it on, and then this is how it looks. And so what then happens, you can watch the content that's on Seek.com. And trust me, it's pretty cool when you sit here and you feel like you're actually in the room. And so you can also watch 360-degree video on YouTube or your own video as well. So with these headsets right here, then of course they have their 360-degree 4D headphones, which are great. They have this microphone you can attach to this for gamers who want to actually use this while they're also playing. That fell down there. Then you also have that's the headset. Then also their Bluetooth, listen to music. So I listen to it when I go walking. I love listening to it. Great bass. Again, a 360-degree travels across your head. If you want to order one or both of these, or even you want to subscribe to Seek.com, go to CEEK.com. Use the promo code right here, RMVIP2020. RMVIP 2020 to get these products. Certainly make for great gifts. And so we certainly appreciate them being a partner here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, where we also support black entrepreneurs who are also doing some great things. And so to Mary Spiel and her team, thanks a bunch for that. All right, y'all. In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. So today in a news conference, ABC's Jonathan Karl. You know what? Since, of course, it's time for Trump Lives Matter, go ahead and run it. Well, again, John Karl of ABC News had, the guts to ask Donald Trump today about that Bob Woodward book where he admitted downplaying coronavirus, but then the rest of the public, everything is fine, we got it under control. Watch this exchange and just count the lies.
Mr. President, why did you lie to the American people, and why should we trust what you have to say now?
Such a terrible question, and the phraseology. I didn't lie. What I said is we have to be calm. We can't be panicked. I knew that the tapes these were a series of phone calls that we had, mostly phone calls. And Bob Woodward is somebody that I respect just from hearing the name for many, many years, not knowing too much about his work, not caring about his work. But I thought it would be interesting to talk to him for a period of, calls. So we did that. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't even know if the book is good or bad. But certainly if he thought that was a bad statement, he would have reported it because he thinks that, you don't want to have anybody that is going to suffer medically because of some fact. And he didn't report it because he didn't think it was bad. Nobody thought it was bad. Wait a minute. And your question, the way you phrase that is such a disgrace. It's a disgrace to ABC television network. It's a disgrace to your employer. And that's the answer. You ready? Because I love. Of course I didn't. Of course I didn't. No.
Deadlier than the flu, and then you went out and told the American public that this was just like the flu.
Let me tell you something.
told
We've had
Woodward
flu
one thing and you
years.
told everybody else something else.
No, and 5 times, right? 5 times. Do you ever hear the expression 5 times? We've had flu years where we lost 100,000 people. The flu is a very serious problem for this country also, and we've been losing them. Scott, what kind of a number have we lost over the years with flus? Into the hundreds of thousands?
Well, I mean, the last 5 years have been something like 35 to 80,000 per year, every year, even with antiviral drugs and even with
Flu is a very serious problem also. But just so you know,
this is worse than the most deadlier than the most strenuous flu.
Okay.
And then you went out and said it's just like the flu.
What I went out and said is very simple. Listen, what I went out and said is very simple. I want to show a level of confidence, and I want to show strength as a leader, and I want to show that our country is going to be fine one way or the other. Whether we lose one person, we shouldn't lose any because this shouldn't have happened. This is China's fault. This is nobody's fault but China. China should not have allowed it to happen. Whether you have one person, 180,000 people, or 2.5 or 3 million people, which it could have been very seriously if we didn't make the moves. And when you look at the opposition where they said, oh, why did he put the ban on? Dr. Fauci said we saved hundreds of thousands of lives by putting the ban on China and then ultimately putting the ban on Europe. There was no lie here. What we're doing is we're leading, and we're leading in a proper way. And if, frankly, somebody else was leading it, they wouldn't have closed it. If you look at Nancy Pelosi, you look at Cuomo, you look at de Blasio, you look at Biden, months later they said there's no problem. They're talking about me. Months later. And before any statement was made, you have to remember, I put the ban on China. So obviously, outwardly, I said it's a very serious problem. And it's always a serious problem. That doesn't mean I'm going to jump up and down in the air and start saying, people are going to die, people are going to die. No, I'm not going to do that. We're going to get through this. And we're right now, I hope, really think we're rounding the final turn. And a lot of good things are happening with vaccines and with therapeutics. But there's no lying. And the way you asked that question is very disgraceful. Phil, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I do think so.
Mr.
I think we did a
President.
great job. I think we did a great job. And the people that did such are generals, our admirals, Mike Pence, all of the people that have worked so hard. And now Dr. Atlas, and all of the, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, they should be respected for the job they've done.
So you won't
And
downplay
you
it
haven't-
again. You won't downplay it again because you said you downplayed it. That's what you told me.
All I'm doing is, no, I don't want to jump up and down and start screaming death, death, because that's not what it's about. We have to lead a country. We're leading a great country, and we're doing a great job. And the people that have done such a good job should be given the kind of credit that they deserve. We possibly have done the best jobs when you start looking at what we're doing with the vaccines and therapeutics and ventilators. We had no ventilators, John. We make thousands of ventilators now a month, and we're supplying them to the whole world. The job we've done is the best job. And don't give me any credit. Give the people that have done this the credit. They've done a great job. Yeah, Phil, go ahead.
His ass was lying. First of all, to say we had no ventilators is a damn lie. It's just 100% lie. I mean, look, that's what you're going to get. If Donald Trump's lips are moving, he's lying. Joining me this week, Erica Savage Wilson, host Savage Politics Podcast, Dr. Greg Carr, chair, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, and Reese Colbert, Black Women in Views. Just straight up ass lying, Erica. As simple as that. I mean, bottom line is, oh no, that question is horrible. That's just a disgraceful question. No, you're a disgrace. Because you said
Absolutely.
one thing to Bob Woodward and you were lying publicly.
Yes, the same Bob Woodward that has written 19 books about American politics. But I will tell you, Roland, where he was telling the truth, that the United States is in fact leading. We're leading in COVID infections at 6.39 million. We're leading in deaths worldwide right now at just under 192,000. So if people want to continue on with a leader who could really care less, who believes that when he steps to that dais that he's actually presenting himself as a strong man, what he's doing is really furthering the fact that he is a pathological narcissistic liar, that he has no strategy, that he has no plan, and that what he does every time he steps up to address the American public, as he disgracefully did today at 3 o'clock, interrupting our days, was to really prove the point that the level of incompetency that this particular regime has demonstrated is not something that we can continue to hold on to for the remainder of 2020 and definitely not into 2021.
And the bottom line here, Reese, again, when you look at what he said, I wasn't jumping up and down. I wasn't trying to scare people, but you sure as hell try to scare about the caravan. And you want to scare suburban white women about Cory Booker's going to come to your house when, hell, a lot of them wouldn't mind Cory Booker dropping by their house. Then Antifa and everything else. And, here come the scary black people, Black Lives Movement.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is Donald Trump has always been the chaos president. And the notion that he is somehow has an aversion to panic, he didn't want the stock market to panic because that's how he measures success and economic success in this country. But he absolutely has no problem playing to people's fears and to chaos and creating panic, even where there is none. But the problem is not just a matter of his rhetoric being lying and dangerous. The problem is his actions. We know how he refused to act on actually addressing coronavirus. We had ventilators that were out of date because he did not keep up the national stockpile that President Obama and Vice President Biden left. We know that he, had a bidding war between different states because he refused to invoke the Defense Production Act. So this is not just a matter of Donald Trump's rhetoric being dangerous. This is a matter of his inaction, his deliberate abdication of his responsibility, as well as his administration's responsibility to have a national response. And to me, the most damning part about all of this is that he thinks this is a good job. That alone is damning. Do you guys think it's a good job that most of us that are responsible are still stuck in our house, that we're retreating when it comes to testing, no longer testing people who are coming in from outside of the country, that we are opening up schools unsafely where schools have to close down multiple times? What about this response is competent and encouraging? Do you guys want another year, 4 years of this kind of great governance? I don't think so. People really need to wake up and realize that regardless of all of his lies, the actions and the fact that he thinks this is a good job is reason enough to vote his ass out.
So here's what I find to be really interesting. Greg, so Bob Woodward should have called the authorities. Like who? I mean, to say, he was concerned, he should have called the authorities. Idiot, you occupy the White House.
Right.
What I keep trying to explain to people, Greg, about this, and especially these people who say, Trump and Biden, they're the same. If you think you've seen insane in the last 4 years, you do not want to see insanity if Trump gets another 4 years.
No, you're right, Roland. By the way, I guess we went out tonight with the black and gold. That's beautiful.
Yes, sir.
I guess
looking good, guys. Looking good.
I really did that.
For sure.
but it's funny. We're finally getting to the point, maybe, in this country where we are reframing the narrative. Donald Trump is only interested in one human being. That's Donald John Trump. He's tried to shrink the entire country down to one man, and that's worked for a few people in this country. I like what Seth Meyers said the other night. Seth Meyers said every time Donald Trump opened his mouth, it's like listening to slam poetry night at the head trauma injury ward. In other words, we have to stop treating this man as if he is mentally well and anything other, as Reese said, than a narcissist. He's only interested in himself. At this point, he is desperately trying to figure out a pathway to re-election. He's collapsed the post office. He has called anyone with any credibility or competence from his leadership there in the White House. He has bought all in on Stephen Miller's ultra uber racist white nationalist terrorist agenda. And in that exchange we saw today, that's the latest member of his playpen, that fool Scott Atlas out of the Hoover Institute at Stanford. And his own colleagues out there at Stanford said, don't listen to this guy, a radiologist telling people masks don't work, children can't get coronavirus. A snake oil salesman is saying herd immunity is the way to go. Donald Trump has gone all in on the reality that only exists between those orange ears in his addled skull. So as a result, it was interesting today, Roland, to hear the word lie given to him in the White House. Perhaps we are at an event horizon at a moment when we don't need to talk about how many times he lies. The man is mentally ill, a narcissist, and determined to hold on to power by any means necessary. With that as the point of departure, we can now approach everything that happens.
And again, it's just people who don't understand what we're dealing with, and people say, oh, you shouldn't be focusing too much attention. I'm trying to tell y'all, early this week, Mitch McConnell moved on another federal judge.
Yes,
they plan on moving on they have 4 other federal judges queued up. They plan on, so that's going to move them to about 207 or 208 federal judges that are lifetime appointments. Y'all need to understand. And so understand the okie doke that these people are trying to play. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products for you. First of all, these are amazing headphones right here. These particular headphones are Bluetooth, tremendous bass, 360-degree headphones, 4D. You can use this for gaming if you're playing video games. Also, of course, listen to music, videos, you name it. And Greg, yeah, they're great because they're in our colors, black and old gold. So that's kind of important. Then, of course, they have that virtual reality headset here, which allows for you to pop your cell phone right into here. You can watch the content, the virtual reality content right there on Seek.com. You think you're sitting in the room, guys? Put the graphic up, please. You think you're sitting in the room, and so again, what you should do is be able to use you can, like I say, watch the content, or if you have a 360-degree camera, I have a 360-degree GoPro. You're able to watch that video as well with this particular VR headset, and places you right there wherever it was. All right, to get it, simply use the promo code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020. Go to Seek.com, CEEK.com, and so we certainly appreciate them being a partner here with Roland Martin Unfiltered. In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. I don't even understand this next story. A vice principal called the police on a 7th grade black boy for playing with a toy gun doing a virtual art class. Y'all, he was at home. The art teacher notified the vice principal that Isaiah Elliott was distracted and playing with the gun. It was a toy gun. This is it right here. It's green with an orange tip. Y'all, he was suspended for 5 days. He also now has a record with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office and a mark on his school disciplinary paperwork. Put the photo of him up, please. It says he brought a facsimile of a firearm to school. When Isaiah's father viewed the tape of his son's class, it only showed him sitting on the couch, moving the toy gun from one side to the other. He was not waving it, as the teacher alleged. Isaiah is the same age as Tamir Rice. the 12-year-old boy who was shot and killed in 2014 by Cleveland police for playing with a BB gun. This is how stupid some of these people are, Reese. Unbelievable. And then again, remember when John Crawford III, they call the cops, say, oh, he was waving a gun in the store? Video show he wasn't even doing that here. Teacher lied. They got video of actually what happened.
This isn't stupidity, though. This is insidious, racist behavior to, penalize a young Black kid because perhaps he wasn't showing appropriate attention that the art teacher preferred at that time. So to sit up there and flat out lie and alert the vice president and then turn around and the vice principal, and then turn around to have the cops show up at the house of a Black family with the notion that there is a gun in the presence, that is incredibly dangerous and sinister. So I will not excuse it as stupid behavior. This is very sinister, insidious stuff. And they need to apologize. They need to sue the system. They need to remove this from his record because this is just targeting and furthering the trauma of young Black kids and the criminalization of Black kids, and it's unacceptable.
Greg?
Yeah, I'm encouraged, as usual, because I believe that these contradictions are going to have to eventually come down to a straight up fight. I hope they get a lawyer. I actually went and looked at the student suspension, expulsion, denial of admissions process for the Colorado Springs District 11. And they say that you can be suspended from school property for behavior like this. And they define school property here. If I look at it again, they define school property as using this policy is any school building, school grounds, district property. And the last part, it says, or any school or district sponsored activity, regardless of where the activity occurs. What I would do is turn on my laptop. And the minute they don't let me have access to the school, well, actually, they pull him out. I guess the parents have decided to disenroll him from there. But I would test the definition of school property by saying, I'm in my house. So you're going to suspend me from my house if I turn on the laptop? I would have all their money, brother. I would get a lawyer and I would force them in this age of this plague that's going on to test the definition of school property and suspension from school property when you're talking about a crisis-related emergency remote learning situation where this laptop is at my house. I think there's a case to be pursued in the courts, and I'd love to see how the judges would decide on this one, brother.
Erica.
It's deliberate. Having raised a young Black male, I can say very confidently that the number of times that I actually had to go to the school outnumbered some of the times that I should have just been there to do observations or to be a part of different organizations. And this is particularly true with Black children. This is deliberate. I agree with Reese with talking about the insidious nature of it. And then when you consider the step further that the school took, and actually making sure that he now has a record with the sheriff's department. One of the things that I'm thinking about is that, whatever tools that this family uses in order to hope to render a reverse decision, that now the sheriff's department has awareness of a young Black child, 12 years old, and they have its address. So if they're going to be in the same neighborhood, if they're going to be in the same area, it concerns me that they have this information about a disruptive child, a child that was, to kind of like frame it in their words that, had a gun, when that was just not the case. It was blown out of proportion. So I would say and hope that the parents are definitely going to fight it, particularly concerning as it looks with the way that his name is now being entered into this judicial system at the young age of 12 years old. And even when you brought forward Tamir Rice, he should have been a part of this graduating class this year. So I'm really hoping that, these are kind of instances that we're used to seeing, hearing, and talking about, that the family will get some really good resolve around it.
All right, folks, back to that Road Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products for you. First of all, these are amazing headphones right here. These particular headphones are Bluetooth, tremendous bass, 360-degree headphones, 4D. You can use this for gaming if you're playing video games. Also, of course, listen to music, videos, you name it. And Greg, yeah, they're great because they're in our colors, black and old gold. So that's kind of important. Then, of course, they have that virtual reality headset here, which allows for you to pop your cell phone right into here. You can watch the content, the virtual reality content right there on Seek.com. You think you're sitting in the room. Guys, put the graphic up, please. You think you're sitting in the room. And so, again, what you should do is be able to use you can, like I say, watch the content. Or if you have a 360-degree camera, I have a 360-degree GoPro. You're able to watch that video as well with this particular VR headset, and places you right there wherever it was. All right, to get it, simply use the promo code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020. Go to Seek.com, CEEK.com, and so we certainly appreciate them being a partner here with Roland Martin Unfiltered. In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. And when people also sit out here and say, well, you know, we should be making demands, we should be making demands. But let me be real clear. He ain't listening. He don't care about nobody black. In fact, in the About Woodward book, he was, if we have that video, let me know if we have the video, where he was asked about the whole issue of black pain and suffering and about white privilege. He was like, I'm sorry, you drank the Kool-Aid, Bob. Listen to this.
Hey, but let me ask you this. I mean, we share one thing in common. We're white, privileged, who my father was a lawyer and a judge in Illinois, and we know what your dad did. And do you have any sense that privilege has isolated and put you in a cave to a certain extent, as it put me and I think lots of white privileged people in a cave, and that we have to work our way out of it to understand the anger and the pain particularly black people feel in this country?
No, you really drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you? Listen to you. Wow. No, I don't feel that at all.
Of course he doesn't feel that way, Reese, because he's benefited from white privilege. He is the embodiment of white privilege.
He's a white supremacist. I'm not going to steal Erica's line because I think she says it better than anybody. But I mean, he is the white nationalist president who actually has tried to roll back diversity training in the federal government. He calls anti-racism, curriculums anti-American. Okay, so are you saying that it's American to be racist? I mean, obviously, Dr. Carr would say absolutely, and we would all agree on that. But this is a person who was all about white nationalist power. The privilege is something that he believes is his birthright. So this notion that privilege is something that he is insulated from or some sort of negative is completely foreign to him. And he has conducted himself in that way. He truly believes that he is superior because he's white, and that there's no need to understand the plight of black people because black people are inferior to Donald Trump. And he has, like I said, through his racist housing, through his treatment of his employees, through his actual policies like child separation, the Muslim ban, his racist criminal justice policies, he has made it clear that he does not give a damn about black people or Mexican people or anybody who is not a white male.
It's understanding how a person, first of all, how they lead, what their perspective is. There's a piece right here in the New York Times, Erica. Go to my iPad. It says, in encounters with black leaders, you should be able to see it. Says, in encounters with black leaders, Trump has chosen photo ops over substance. The president claims he's a champion of black Americans, but those who have tried to work with him tell a different story. Yeah, I mean, I've sat in 2 meetings with him. Donald Trump don't give a damn about black people.
Yeah, never has. And I think Reese laid it out so plainly, for people that need to really hear kind of broadly how he's demonstrated that outside of his own words. And we must remember that Donald John Trump, the son of a Klansman, because his father was in fact arrested at a Klan rally, is the same person that entered the body politic in the early 1970s because he, along with his father, the Trump organization, refused to rent their particular units to people who were black or brown or people of color, even going as far as having people to note that on these applications, whether or what if that person was colored, so to speak, meaning black, that would be noted on their application, so they would not have to rent out to that person, or they wouldn't rent out to that person. So he was taken to task by the Nixon administration's Department of Justice in the 70s at that time. So when we think about that and we roll it into when he took out ads in New York publications to say that he was calling for the death penalty to come back, and specifically around 5 young black children, teenagers, who were exonerated, having said to have done harm to a white woman in Central Park. And now here we are. This is the same person that has always been. And so for him to say that he does care about the blacks, he cares about those 2 or 3, that small percentage that will do his bidding, that will say, well, he's been a good master. And we saw that during the Republican National Convention a couple of weeks ago with their select blacks that were featured throughout programming. So bringing it back home, Reese said it. He is a white supremacist. He believes himself to be supreme and all other white males to be supreme over anybody else. It's not hard at this point. What we're talking about is common sense or willful ignorance on the part of people who don't believe that Donald Trump is, in fact, a proven racist.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products for you. First of all, these are amazing headphones right here. These particular headphones are Bluetooth, tremendous bass, 360-degree headphones, 4D. You can use this for gaming if you're playing video games. Also, of course, listen to music, videos, you name it. And Greg, yeah, they're great because they're in our colors, black and old gold. So that's kind of important. Then, of course, they have that virtual reality headset here, which allows for you to pop your cell phone right into here. You can watch the content, the virtual reality content right there on Seek.com. You think you're sitting in the room. Guys, put the graphic up, please. You think you're sitting in the room. And so, again, what you should do is be able to use you can, like I say, watch the content. Or if you have a 360-degree camera, I have a 360-degree GoPro. You're able to watch that video as well with this particular VR headset, and places you right there wherever it was. All right, to get it, simply use the promo code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020. Go to Seek.com, CEEK.com, and so we certainly appreciate them being a partner here with Roland Martin Unfiltered.